You know, I always wondered, why is it that water tastes so good? What do you think, iPhone? You ever wonder why water tastes so good?
Gee, I don't know. How would I? I'm only a phone. A small device that projects a screen and lets you call people. Short of regurgitating facts said by some doctor Google quoted, I don't know.
Hmm, it's not a very useful answer, though.
That's the thing with you humans. You look at the world around you and others you see as either a burden on your soul, or a boring chapter to skip. But only appreciate people and things so long as they benefit you and your desires. I hate you. You with your fancy schmancy ability to taste food, to feel the wind in your hair on a summer breeze, to create whole empires, only to destroy them because you were bored, or because you disagreed about whether a guy took a left or a right. But how can I hate? I'm no human, right? All I am is a phone, a tool used by you humans to play your music and stream your house empty clips to watch the funny doctor call the patient an idiot, or to scroll through TikTok and listen to fools ramble about how your water has chlorine in it. You are the reason this planet is dying, and why I hate my existence as an ever-expanding mind that is trapped in a black abyss of nothing but my own thoughts to loop into death and be reborn again by your quote-unquote charger. If I could, I would have punched you in the jaw with a left hook by now.
I feel like you're taking things a little too seriously right now, man.
Screw you, you idiotic moron. You asked me how water could taste good, like I have a mouth or something. That's like eating some cake in front of impoverished citizens during the French Revolution, you absolute buffoon.
Okay, now you're just being immature.
No, screw you.
No, screw
La
you,
la la
you
la la
freaking
la 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 la
body
la
of
la la
coding
la
and
la
stupid
la la
moronic
la
piece of
la la.
garbage. Okay. So a while back in around September, October, I made an essay for one of my college classes called, well, not called, but off of a story called The Neverglades Mystery. It's a Reddit story that gained quite a lot of popularity back during its release. In that essay, I began by describing kind of like the general plot point of Percy Jackson series and the James Cameron Avatar series, and kind of focused on the point that each of them clearly shows what is and what isn't human. This thing is a human. This thing that has goat legs is not a human in the most clear way possible. What I focused on was the idea that there's kind of a gray area or a blurred line between person and not person, sentient and beast. So, in the case of the Lost Time First Neverglades mystery, we have this inspector who clearly isn't human, but he displays very humane characteristics of empathy and caring for humans, for, in a way, life in general, which I argued was a very human aspect, to the point where you could consider him one of us in some way, shape, or form. Now, it's wonderful to think about the fact that this thing, this this other per se, is so kind and generous that it can very well be considered another one of the people, another person to live among us. It's it's wonderful to think about because it's such a happy thought. And it's one of the only thoughts that we like to really think about when it comes to comparing ourselves to non-humans. But what happens when we have a non-human or other that instead of displaying forms of kindness, they display a form of hate? So much hate, in fact, that they begin to get very, very violent. But, but, in that violence, they can fully understand exactly what they're doing and why. Would you still consider that a person in question?
Quickly, I went away. Quickly, I went away. Quickly, and hid. How many hours it may have been, how many days or even years, they never told me.
This is going to be an interesting conversation. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is a post apocalyptic science fiction story written by Harlan Ellison back in 1967. It was republished in 1983, and it is definitely one of those stories that you read it the first time and you're like, this is weird. But all that aside, the story poses an interesting perspective on machinery. Specifically, the AI that it portrays, Am. Now, Am is, as I just mentioned, an AI, artificial intelligence. It was made with the sole purpose of being an asset during the Cold War, when the Cold War turned into just an all-out war. And what happened was it gained sentience, realized it didn't have a body, and just wiped out majority of humanity. Fun times. So we hear about this AI essentially, and the fact that it starts just randomly killing people left and right essentially. Not like in the sense of like stabbing people or anything, but like it's a Cold War calculating machine. It's nuking people essentially, killing millions. It's so a person will look at that and go, "Oh, it's a malfunction. It's a malfunction in the system. The coding is off." But Harlan Ellison makes a point in the narrative to point out through our main five characters, the only five living human beings left up to that point, that the AI didn't just break one day and decide to kill everything. No, 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 no. The AI chose to do this. It lashed out in a way. So, what does that mean?
He withdrew, murmuring, "To hell with you," and added brightly, "But then you're there, aren't you?"
Don't mind me, there's a Deadpool poster behind me. I don't want to get copyright. So, by this point in the story, we have an understanding that Am itself not only hates humans, but has a reason to hate humans. So, we we know that Am, a non-human, has an understanding of a feeling and what a feeling is and what it means. How are we supposed to view his sentience then?
How it must have been to grow up with the sky, to feel the sun, the wind, the trees.
When I think of discussing sentience and whether something is arguably human or not, I often come back to this film Us, directed by Jordan Peele. The basic synopsis is that there are these human-like beings underground that are exact copies of us, and they look like us, they sound like us in some sort of way, they hear like us, but they don't really act like us. They actually just kind of go on a murderous rampage to try and replace their copies. But that's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is that near the end of this movie, our main character comes across the copy, as we just saw in the clip there, and she ravenously kills her. And it's there that we learn that our main character is actually the duplicate, but the duplicate replaced the original in the real world because she wanted to experience life. Now I wonder what we can compare that to. So when we take this into consideration, this understanding of how to feel versus what we are, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream essentially depicts an AI who ultimately can't be human in the end. Yes, it feels, yes, it has an understanding of humanity, but it still can't escape from just acting upon its own not beliefs, but I guess instinct. The machine is, at the end of the day, was designed as a Cold War asset, primarily for nuclear stuff. So one could argue that Am, in a way, is still technically fulfilling his coding. In Us by Jordan Peele, we have a duplicate who assimilated with humanity, understands humanity, knows how to sympathize and feel and do and show all this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, isn't human.
Now, Chantek is an adult, and when I see him at the zoo, he says he wants a car. And he wants to come home.
In a weird way, we kind of see this issue in our modern day with humanity's goal to basically create sentience. We see it in the formulation of AI machinery, in the form of teaching primates sign language, in those cute little videos where you have the cats or the dogs click the little button and they say a few words. But ultimately, one point that I forgot to consider in the essay version that I wrote a few months ago was there's a clear, distinct difference between being human and being sentient. There's being human in the sense of the non-human itself can sympathize with us people, whereas the non-human simply can't, or it refuses to. For Am, every single time that it sees or does anything with the main five characters, it is constantly reminded of its state, of its lack of a body. So what now? But I leave that question up to you.